I pressed my back against the cold porcelain stall wall, heart pounding like a war drum, as Dawn's rough hands found their way beneath my skirt, sending shockwaves of betrayal and impossible desire through my veins. The harsh fluorescent light above flickered, while I struggled between fear and a desperate craving that I could not name, my breath shallow as I realized that this forbidden touch, my father's best friend, the man I had adored since childhood, would forever shatter the boundaries of my innocence and bind me in a secret I could never confess. I grew up under the soft glow of string lights in my parents' backyard, where laughter danced on the humid New Jersey air, and the scent of grilled burgers mingled with the evening breeze. My father, Jeremy, presided over our annual summer barbecue with casual authority, his booming laugh echoing between the houses on Maplewood Lane. By his side was always Dan, his best friend since college, the man I had known as long as I could remember. To me, Dan had been a figure of warmth and stability, the kindly uncle who brought small gifts on my birthday and offered guidance when I faced life's uncertainties. Our family bond seemed unbreakable. After college, I returned home to regroup, my heart bruised from a sudden breakup that left me questioning my worth. Dan noticed he offered to spot me at the gym to drive me to errands to sit with me quietly when my tears fell at night. His concern felt tender, and I welcomed it without hesitation. In those early days, his hands rested reassuringly on my shoulder, his voice calm and steady. I believed that he simply cared deeply for me as any protective older friend would. I did not suspect the darker turn that his kindness would soon take. One humid July evening, I found myself alone in the women's locker room after a grueling spin class. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the emptiness pressed against me like a weight. I wished for distraction, for conversation, for any reminder that I was not truly alone. The door swung open, and Dan stepped inside carrying 2 towels. He said that he had forgotten his shorts in his car and asked if he could wait a moment while I finished changing. I should have felt alarm, but instead, I felt a flicker of relief that his familiar presence filled the sterile room I was standing by, my locker brushing my damp hair when he approached. His voice remained gentle as he offered a towel draped over my shoulders. I thanked him without thinking. Then his hand slipped lower. Grazing the curve of my waist, I froze, heart pounding like thunder in my chest, as he leaned in close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something warm and earthy. My mind screamed that this was wrong, that was my father's friend, and my trust was sacred. Yet when his lips brushed my neck, confusion and a strange ache blossomed inside me. He pressed me against the cold tile wall, and I felt torn between panic and an inexplicable longing. I pushed him away, my breath ragged in my throat. I gathered my belongings with trembling fingers and fled the locker room, each step echoing my shame. Outside, the night air hit me like cold water, but it did not wash away the heat of my tears. I wrapped my arms around myself and realized that everything I believed about safety and trust had shattered. In an instant, I vowed that I would never see Dan again. Even as the echo of his touch burned across my skin, I could not yet understand how deeply his betrayal would cut, nor how it would bind me in silence and fear in the days to come. I arrived home with my shoulders hunched and my heart racing, as though I carried an invisible weight that threatened to crush me. The familiar chime of the front door welcomed me, but I could not shake the turmoil lingering in my bones. My mother greeted me with a cheerful call as she moved pots on the stove. I managed a polite smile and told her that I was tired from the gym, basking in the cover of exhaustion, rather than revealing the truth that Dan had become a predator in a locker room. I retreated to my room and closed the door behind me, creating a fragile barrier between my father's best friend and the life I once knew. In the days that followed, I avoided family gatherings and skipped the weekly Thursday dinner with my parents, and Dan Jeremy noticed my absence. He sent text messages asking if I was ill, and he called me at odd hours. Concerned, threading his voice, I deflected each inquiry, telling him that I needed time to focus on a work project. I watched my father's worry deepen, with each unanswered message and guilt coiled around my chest. I was betraying him by hiding the truth about the only man he had trusted beyond our blood, my best. Friend Sophie called one afternoon to invite me for coffee at a small cafe down the street. I sat across from her, stirring my drink as steam curled from my mug. Sophie's eyes, ever perceptive, flicked to the faint bruise on my wrist. She leaned forward and asked about it. My throat tightened. I murmured that I had bumped into the edge of a table at home. Sophie did not press further, but her silent concern stung more sharply than my lie. She reached across the table and placed her hand over mine, her warmth reminding me that I was not alone in my suffering. That evening, Dan appeared in my backyard, as though I had called for him. He leaned against the railing, his posture casual, his face shadowed by the glow of the porch light. He spoke softly, claiming that he had been worried about me and had come to check on my well-being. I allowed him to cross the threshold of my home, unsettled by his presence, but compelled by the remnants of trust one still harbored. He reached for my hand in a gesture that once felt protective but now felt predatory. I pulled away, and he smiled an expression too smooth to be genuine. He told me that he believed I was lonely and vulnerable, and that he only wanted to shield me from my pain. He spoke of the breakup that had hollowed me out, twisting his explanation into an excuse for his actions. His voice grew insistent as he recounted our moment in the gym, framing it as a necessary confession of his love. He said that I had responded in ways that encouraged him painting my terror as consent. Every word lodged in my mind like a splinter. I realized with a shock that he had rehearsed his version of the story, ready to manipulate anyone who might doubt him. I backed away from the railing, and my breath caught as I noticed something tucked into the lining of my mailbox later that night. A flash of black and white lurking among the envelopes. I retrieved it with trembling fingers and discovered photographs, images of Dawn hand-slipping beneath my skirt, my face pressed against the cold tile wall, raw and unguarded. My chest tightened with fear as I understood his cruel purpose. He had captured my worst moment and held it hostage. A note accompanied the photographs, its words typed in a precise, impersonal font. "If you tell anyone, I will show these to your father. Think carefully before you betray me." My blood ran cold. In that instant, the delicate threads of loyalty and love I had woven around my family threatened to unravel. I folded the photographs and note into my pocket, my fingers shaking. I felt trapped by my own silence, bound by blackmail, and cut off from the only support I believed I could trust. The secret grew inside me, dark and twisted, and I realized that I would have to confront it if I ever hoped to break free. I sat on the edge of my bed, photographs and notes spread across my lap like a viper's coil-etch image, a testament to Dawn betrayal and my humiliation. The blackmail threatened not only my reputation, but the fabric of my family's trust. My phone lay silent beside me, until Sophie's name flickered on the screen. I answered without a word, my voice catching as I told her everything. Dawn assault the note, and the fear that I would lose my father's love if the truth surfaced. Sophie's gentle urgency steeled my resolve. She refused to let me carry this burden alone. Together we devised a plan. Sophie borrowed her brother's small digital voice recorder. We arranged to meet Dan at Jerem's study under the pretense that I needed advice. My heart pounded as we approached. The heavy oak door. I could hear voices within my own wavering apology, and Dawn's smooth reassurances. Sophie slipped inside moments before me and placed the recorder. Behind a stack of books, I crossed the threshold and closed the door, forcing myself to look Dan in the eye. He greeted me with a patronizing smile and reached for my hand. I stepped back, fury and fear wearing within me. I told him that I had thought long and hard about his confession, and that I needed clarity. Dan began to speak, weaving his narrative of love and protection, but I interrupted him. I asked him to explain why he had taken advantage of me, why he had preyed on a vulnerable woman he claimed to care for. His voice faltered, and I pressed on each question sharper than the last. Unknowingly to him, Sophie pressed the record button. Dan leaned forward, his composure cracking as he stammered through excuses, then defenses, then finally, admissions. He described how he had waited for the perfect moment when I was alone and fragile, how he believed that I owed him something for his kindness. His words fell like stones, each one confirming my worst fears. I felt tears burn behind my eyes, but I stood firm. When I finished, I told him that I had documented every word. Moments later, Jeremy appeared at the door, concern etched across his face. Dawn's expression shifted to shame as he realized that his betrayal was exposed. I held out, the recorder and the photographs. My voice quivered as I recounted the assault and the blackmail. Jeremy's face-palled pain and disbelief etched into every line. He turned to Dan, betrayal mirrored in his eyes. Dan opened his mouth, but no words came. Silence filled the study as Jeremy ushered Dan out of the house. My father's arms enveloped me, and I felt his body tremble with grief and anger. I clung to him, sobbing until my tears ran dry. In that moment, Yunderst